First, the Game Master decides what the characters under his control are going to do. Then the players declare what their characters are going to do. And they can attack with a missile or melee weapon, cast a spell, use an ability, for example, make a jump or climb a tree or use a magic item, or they can move. If they move as far as their movement rate allows them to. It is possible to both perform a move up to half the movement rate, round up to whole 5 feet, and, regardless of attack rate, a single missile or melee attack in the same round. If you attack from a riding animal, you have to check your dexterity to be allowed to do so, to see if you can control the animal. On a critical success, you can attack normally, and you are also allowed to actually perform a charge. On a success, you can attack normally. On a semi-success, you can attack normally, but you position your animal a little bit poorly and lose your dexterity bonus to your defensive value that round. On a failure, you lose control of the animal and cannot attack, and of course lose your dexterity bonus to a defensive value, and spend the rest of the round trying to control the animal instead. On a critical failure, you fall from the animal and take normal falling damage, which is explained under the description of the ability score dexterity. A Game Master can adjust the player's die roll depending on how difficult the terrain is. After declaring actions, the initiative is determined. And you do that by casting a d6 and adding your dexterity adjustment. And the Game Master does the same for the involved NPCs. Highest number wins the initiative, and everyone gets to perform the actions they declared in order. Characters whose action is to move will act first, in the order determined by initiative. A character who plans to both move and attack will complete his movement before performing his attack. After everyone has moved, a missile combat is resolved in order, again based on initiative result. And then finally, or not finally actually, but after that melee combat is resolved, and finally spells are cast. For melee, the character using the weapon with the longest reach will attack first, because you have the longest reach, so you can reach out and hit the opponent before he can get close to you. If you have a shorter reach, you have to move in, you have to close in on the enemy before you can make your attack. And animals have a reach based on their size, because large creatures have long limbs. And finally, unless the spellcaster is injured in the same round by a melee missile attack, which causes the spell to automatically fail, he can cast a spell. If two individuals have the same initiative result, they perform the actions simultaneously, and the consequences are resolved before anyone else acts. For example, if both characters attack and kill each other, they both die. However, if a character with a better initiative kills another, the latter dies before he can complete his action. A character in melee can freely disengage and move away from melee without suffering an attack, because his move will be performed before melee. You can also change your initiative order in the sense that you can deliberately choose to roll a 1 on the initiative roll, and you may opt to forego adding your dexterity adjustment. So if you want to act last, you might well be allowed to. Characters moving will still defend themselves normally if attacked by others once their move has been completed. If 2 attacks are declared by the same character in the same round, the second attack will be performed after all others have performed their actions. The second missile attack will be performed first, and then the second melee attacks, and so forth. The initiative is checked only once per encounter, and anyone joining the fight at a later stage will check his initiative normally and be allowed to act according to initiative. However, new adjustments, such as conditions acquired during combat, or because a different weapon is used, or a different fighting style is used, to initiative for individual characters, can change their place in the order determined by initiative. The reach for each individual weapon is listed in the weapons list. And here you have the fighting style and how it influences your initiative. If you're fighting offensively, you gain a bonus to your initiative, and if you're passively fighting, you suffer a dramatic penalty. Here you have conditions and how that influences it. And then finally, performing actions. Because here you have something else. Yes, you move first, but after the character with the best initiative has moved, the others can react to that. they can change their plans and take a different action than they originally intended. This reaction is kind of important because it allows characters to make more logical choices and to perform more logical actions. If you, for example, which is an example that taken from one of our sessions, your character plans to climb up a little cliffside to join the fight up there. But an orc up there had a better initiative, so he jumped down to fight the character down there. Naturally, the character down there would not then decide to climb up, so he changed his plan and instead attacked the orc. And this is what reactions mean. You modify your plan based on how the other character moves or performs his move. Then you have attacks of opportunity, and this is not like in D&D 3e or anything. It's simply if a character tries to move past an enemy within 10 feet, then that enemy can forfeit his planned actions for the round and instead make a melee attack against the moving character. Note that the character moving up to an enemy does not provoke an attack of opportunity, nor moving away from one. And naturally, before anyone performs their attack, the GM will check if any of the combat modifications apply and adjust the offensive value and defensive value of each participant based on that. I'll just show you how to do it. I'm not going to read all of it. And of course, an adjustment to defensive value for dexterity only applies if the defender is in a situation where he is able to perform evasive maneuvers and dodge blows. He will lose this adjustment if, for example, is fighting in a narrow tunnel, or if he for some reason lost his balance, see difficult terrain, or was unaware that an attack was made against it, or if he was attacked from behind. Attacks are resolved in the same manner for both melee and missile combat. The attacker rolls a d20 and adds his offensive value and any situational adjustments, and compare the result to the defensive value of the defender. If the result is lower than the defensive value of the defender, the attack has no effect. It was either a miss, or the armor or other defensive means of the defender deflected the blow, or absorbed all damage. If the result is the same as the defensive value of the defender, the attacker inflicts damage on the defender depending on the type of weapon used. If the result is higher than the defensive value of the defender, the attacker inflicts damage on the defender depending on the type of weapon used, and in addition to that, the difference between the results of the attack and the defensive value of the defender is added up to the damage. When attacking, a natural 20 at worst always inflicts the weapon damage on the defender, and a natural 1, and for some weapons 1 or 2, is always a fumble. So instead of just being able to hit or not hit, you can hit and you can hit well. Critical damage. If a character other than a troll, that would be an undead, suffers a significant amount of damage from a single attack, there is a chance he may suffer critical damage. The threshold for critical damage depends on the character's size, except for dwarves, who are exceptionally tough and suffer critical damage as if they were medium-sized. If a character suffers critical damage, he must test his constitution for system shock, with an adjustment to the die equal to the difference between the critical damage threshold for his size and the damage he suffers. And if you are stunned, the character cannot perform his planned actions this round or the next round, and suffer from the stunned condition until the end of the next round. If incapacitated, the character will fall prone and suffer from the helpless condition until at least one of his lost health points, has been restored through healing. If not healed by someone else, or by drinking a healing potion within d6 hours, he will die from bleeding or serious internal injuries. And finally, death means that the character dies. Quite a surprise, isn't it? And what this means, what this combat system means, is that the weapon you use matter for initiative because of the reach of the weapon, and you can deal a lot of damage with almost any weapon if you hit well. And I will talk about the different qualities of the different weapons in the next video.